Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. I can't believe the holidays are already here. Thanksgiving is past, and we are now heading towards Christmas. And we have with us Christina Moore or Christine Moore. We were talking off tape. We'll get into it here in a second. But she has just had a fantastic filmography, and we have two wonderful holiday films coming out here: A Hollywood Christmas on HBO Max, and then I Believe in Santa on Netflix. Don't come at us, either one of you. I've worked for both of you, and we've got some great chats here. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
I am so excited to be here with you.
Yeah. So again, as I mentioned, I was going through your filmography, and we'll go back to the beginning here. Normally I save that for the middle, but we talked about your name and sort of how it's a thing. So
It's a
and it's
thing.
not really sort of, but it is. Let's talk about that before we get into this, because now you've piqued my interest on how I should address you continuing on throughout our conversation.
Yeah, it's a confusing. So my birth name is Christine Moore.
Okay.
And I started in Hollywood and I acted on a whole bunch of shows, and Christine Moore was like all cool and kosher. And then I did a called Hyperion Bay. It was my first television series where I got my own title card with my name on it.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it flagged at Screen Actors Guild that there was another woman named Christine Moore who was dead, but her family didn't want anyone using her name, and that was their right. So I was given 5 minutes to come up with another name, which is a kind of, it was like really a hilarious conversation with this woman. She was like, we have to clear it. So what else, what other names do you have? And I was like, other names? Do people just have other names? Like, what are you talking? Like, my dad calls me Gooby. Like, I don't know that that's going to work. And so occasionally my mom would call me Christina Weena. So I was like, there we go. That's the name. That's going to stick. So, but I have so many people that I've known for so long, and I go all the way back, that people will still call me that, even though professionally it's supposed to be Christina, and they're close enough. I never switched it. So you can call me either one.
Well, it's interesting because I have heard that story from other actors before where that's happened. And you would think an odd thing that it would be, but quite frankly, that's kind of normal in this industry, especially when you start getting up there and you're dealing with SAG and all of that. And then they're like, hey, we got to figure this out. But how interesting that it would like get that kind of attention to the point where you had to literally make a decision on how you were going to change it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you
Just
do
the
other
idea that
things
like
now, does it confuse people, or are they at this point go, okay, we know
people
who
get
she is?
confused. They do get confused, but it's then it just becomes a fun little conversation. It's exactly like this. And then occasionally, I mean, actually, oftentimes then it's just like, well, what name do you want to be called? And then I'm like, well, make one up. I'll answer to it probably.
That is fun. I love it. Very good. So, A Hollywood Christmas coming up here in just a few days on HBO Max, and then about a week and so later, Netflix. Let's talk about this: A Tale of Two Stories here, A Hollywood Christmas,
Right?
and of course, I Believe in Santa. Now, the I Believe in Santa, I have seen a sizzle clip or a sort of a prepared trailer I saw. I haven't really seen much about Hollywood Christmas. Let's start with that one because it comes out on the 1st of December here in just a few days. How exciting is it, though? You produced this one.
I
Um,
did.
how did that all come about for you outside of the standard, you get a call from your manager or your team and they're like, we have something for you. How did you get on the bandwagon for that one, A Hollywood Christmas?
It's funny, a Hollywood Christmas. So in terms of producing, what's really different is that it's all self-generated. You know,
Okay.
like if when you get an acting job, yeah, it's like your agent or your manager or somebody's interested. When you're the producer, I call it, it's like you're the wedding planner and you're the bride and you're the cleanup crew. So like it starts with you. My husband wrote it, and he wrote it during the pandemic when we were
Okay.
all kind of shut in. and wrote it with our director, Alex Rana-Ravello. And the three of us have made probably 8 different films together in the past. And so once, I mean, the pandemic, I think it's still happening anyway, but like maybe it was 2021, and we have a relationship with Warner Brothers, which is then HBO Max. And they said, hey, do you guys have any Christmas stuff laying around? Because we really want to jump in on the holiday thing. And it was like, yeah, we do. It's ready to go. So we got greenlit and then filmed it in February, and now it's coming out. I think it's a really fun comedy romp. It's a farce. It's basically a female director who directs kind of your very typical formulaic Christmas movies. And when the network executive comes to shut her down, her life begins to mirror the exact movie that she's making. So if anybody is familiar with Moliere,
Yes.
a farce, that's basically what it is. It's a love letter to Hollywood. It's a love letter to Christmas movies. It's a love letter to Christmas itself. And I'm really happy with it. I'm really proud of it. And I'm excited that we're going to get to share it with everybody.
Yes, I love the Moliere reference because anybody that's ever taken an acting class or a film class like 100 level, Moliere is often referred to. We get to geek out a little bit here. I love it. About a farce. What is a farce? Noises Off is another one that I can think of.
Yep.
So where the unthinkable happens in a situation, and I could see that. That's really cool. And again, for people watching and listening that don't know, yeah, you do have a huge working relationship with those folks over there, and have done a lot of things behind the scenes. And then, of course, you have to go over to Netflix, which
I know we're cheating.
Don't tell anybody about The Mistress. Or whatever. It doesn't have to be a mistress, but
let's just say it is. I'm a big fat cheater. That's a sexy little soundbite. Let's do it.
Yes, and I Believe in Santa, which comes out on the 14th. You star in this one and then produce. Is this another one that you had in the closet ready to go? Or okay, so it was.
It is. This one was, so it's our best friend director, Alex Rana-Ravello. He and my husband love to goose each other. They just love to so this was give me a 40-year-old virgin, but a Christmas story. And my husband is one of those that's like, don't you dare tell me to come up with something. I will do it. So what I love about it is it's quite autobiographical in nature because it's about my husband and my relationship. The twist is I'm now the single parent. In our real life, he was the single parent and we got together. And what happens when everything seems to be like romantic and perfect and great, and then you find out that your partner has a belief that, or a fetish or a love affair with something that really freaks you out. So in the story of I Believe in Santa, we find out that Tom, even though he's a grown-up, believes in Santa Claus. And so what I love about it is that it's really an exploration into, how can you accept things about people if they believe things that you don't? And I think that we happen to have a Muslim in the film, and he becomes a very big helper to how these two can overcome, and how can you just remove your judgment. So I feel like it's very timely. The world hasn't healed yet. So I'm hoping that our giant Christmas romance comedy feel good thing can kind of show people it's okay. If people believe things that are different than you, or they are different than you, you can still love them.
Yeah, both are fantastic projects. And your husband, John, you both have been in this business for a very long time. Is that how you met in the business, working on a project? How did that come about? It's very cool when two people are both creatives and both have very measurable success in this industry, and work on things together, because then, the possibilities become even more limitless when you're trying to put together good content.
Yeah, we met. We both come from the world of sitcoms. So he
Yeah.
was a guest star on a sitcom that I was on, and one of his best friends was Nicole Sullivan. She had done Mad TV, and then I did Mad TV, and she was kind of the grande dame. She liked to host parties. She had this epic Easter party that had hundreds of people, and everybody was like young and single and boozy, and it was great. Um, and so really we were kind of always circling, but like, oh, I was dating somebody else, he was dating somebody else. And then we went to Nicole Sullivan's wedding, and all of our friends that were there were plotting to get us together, like these two dum-dums, if they ever just figured out how perfect they were for each other. So they changed the seating arrangement the morning of the wedding, and we sat next to each other, and there were fireworks, literally and figuratively, and that's the story.
Yes, which sounds like could be a great plot to a film.
Oh shoot. Yeah, I know. Like, how many more things are we gonna like rip out of our lives?
Well, I think and I've heard from other creatives and storytellers like yourself, oftentimes that's a great place to start, is what's happening in your life, especially when you are reaching out or going to put something together. So again, looking at your filmography going all the way
Mm-hmm.
back to 2004,
Ooh, okay.
yes, Without a Paddle, which I think most people have probably seen,
Mhm.
was that the grandeur project for you that gave you? I know you'd done a couple things before that. I don't know how accurate IMDb is these days,
Sure.
but was that really sort of your big launch into the working on a studio project that gave you a big break, or were there other things that happened before that or after that?
You're no, you're pretty much dead on. The thing about that particular project was that I booked it the same day that I booked that 70s show,
Okay.
which, and like, not knowing how much that was going to drastically change my life,
Okay.
because I had not seen it, I didn't know it. I mean, I don't know, I was living clearly under a rock. And when I ended up getting that show and replacing a, major character,
Yeah.
that was bananas. I mean, and that was like Ashton Kutcher was dating Demi Moore at that. I mean, like, my life it was paparazzi. It was like craziness. It went bananas. And because I booked them on the same day, they worked around my schedule. So I literally left tape night from that 70s show to drive to LAX, to fly overnight, to go to New Zealand, to do Without a Paddle. Yeah, I kind of felt a little bit like a rock star. Not
I
gonna
was going
lie.
to ask. So, one last question about that. So, when you do replace somebody like that, that was a big deal, uh, huge deal. And how does that make you feel as an artist at that point? Because now you're coming into this like big machine, and really, I mean, it's huge. That was massive. I remember that quite well.
It was overwhelming. It was, yeah, it was totally overwhelming, and I really didn't know. I think if I had known what I was getting into, but people say that a lot, right? Like, if I had known what I was, might not have ever done it. Like,
Yeah.
it's great to be dumb. Um, the cast was really lovely. Like, the cast was really welcoming. It was a big deal for them. The other actress had some trouble, and that was hard on everybody. So they were very welcoming. Kurtwood Smith was so lovely. Every day he was like, "Do you want to come and have lunch with me?" And I think, just
Wow.
as like a grown up, like, realizing I was freaked out. So yeah, it was a big deal.
Wonderful. Well, these two great films coming out here in December. Again, please be sure to watch both of them, HBO Max and Netflix.
I know. Rivals.
Yes, Rivals. I've done press for both. So I think this is great. I'm very excited for people to watch these again, having seen just a little bit of the other. I cannot wait. Again, such a fantastic career, and the fact that you get to work with your significant other makes this even more exciting. And probably never a shortage of ideas, right? Are you guys always pitching things to one another over dinner and dishes. I
It's
could
so
imagine.
funny. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people who know us are like, we're like, do you guys just laugh all day long?
It
It's
probably
kind
gets
of like,
annoying after a while, I would imagine. Or maybe
like a real, like we have to pay our mortgage and, take out the garbage and that kind of thing. But no, it has been a wonderful, wonderful part of our lives. And we didn't start out that way. It just kind of unfolded. And yeah, I mean, the story that is I Believe in Santa came from the fact that we met in May at Nicole Sullivan's wedding. Then we
yeah.
had this like summer of love, like all the ooey gooey romance and like, just staying up all night and staring googly eyes at each other. And then it was September, and I was like, he's not really returning my phone calls. Like, is he ghosting me? What is happening? Like, and I lived in West Hollywood. He was in Sherman Oaks, and I drove over the hill with the intention of like blowing in his door and being like, break up with me like a grown up. Don't like just stop talking to me. And I opened the door, and his entire living room looked like a kindergarten classroom decorated for football. He had 6 televisions installed on his mantle. And what I didn't know is that he and his friends were like psychotic football maniacs and got together every Sunday. And he turned his house into a sports bar. And they bet and had fantasy football and like group football things. And I was like, are you for real? This is real. This is now my life. Like, and so that was the genesis of I Believe in Santa. Like, what do you do when you're in love with somebody and then they ghost you for a goofy holiday?
I love it. Cannot wait for people to watch this. Christina. We'll say both. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a true pleasure chatting with you. I appreciate your time for these great films and such a great career.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have one question for you, Brett. If I was to tell you you have 2 minutes to rename yourself, what is your other name?
I would go with my real last name, Montgomery, if I had to, but Brett Allen is a radio moniker that has stuck for years and was much easier to use in this business and in the show because people remember it much easier than Brett Montgomery. And that's the first time I've used my real last name for a very long time. So
Oh my God, it's like we're name BFFs. Like we have our own little secret handshake. Like
I
you call me
love it.
Christine, I'll call you Montgomery, and
There
we'll
you
be
go. I
in
had
love.
Joe McHale on a couple years ago and he just razzed me about it the entire time. So it was a lot of fun.